thanks for putting those
Dark
on.
Almond is saying in the chat, we're having too much fun. Please quiet down. Card players are concentrating.
Thanks, Alex.
Sure, you haven't seen the fun we're going to have yet. I have Thurston's beer stats right here.
Oh, boy.
So,
What does that even mean? Beer stats?
So, over the course of the game, or the day, Thurston consumed a number of beers. And I decided I was going to track this and try and pull some fun statistics together for today's podcast. If you were at Highlander and you heard Thurston just shouting across the room...
If you were at Highlander, basically, and not deaf.
Yeah. If you were at Highlander, you heard Thurston shouting across the room going, "Hey, Josh! 13!"
Oh, that's what
that was him telling me how many beers he had had. Mm-hmm. So,
something new today.
To give a rundown of Thurston's beers during the event, you had 2 before game 1 started.
Yes.
By the
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yes.
The bar opens and Thurston's like...
No, actually, people went and got for me. The first 2 I got were delivered to me.
So it's everyone else's fault for powering you up in this way.
It's fair. I would like to thank Ryan, my first opponent, and Derek. That was awesome. Thank you.
Peer pressure.
By the end of game 1, you are on your 4th beer. Yep. You had concluded your 4th beer. At this point, you scored 10-1 at this game. So at this point, you were at 2.5 points per beer. Okay. You're scoring at that rate. And you had 0.1 points allowed per beer. By the start of game 2, you were on your 6th beer. And this was actually a slow rate for you. You only consumed 1 beer over the course of game 2 that I have written down. No, because... Well, no, there was probably another one in there, but I probably just announced it to you later because Kate, bless her heart, was doing runs for us. So because I was going to say that you end game 2 again at 10-2, and we're going to compile the rest of these stats once I finish running down the beers. But it was stunning because somehow, despite it being the shortest break of the day, between the end of game 2 and the start of game 3, I have you consuming 4 more beers.
Oh, yeah.
You were on your 11th beer at the start of game 3.
So there was probably 2 during that game that were missed, and then I had 2 during that break. Yes,
absolutely.
There we go.
So
important math here.
At the start of game 3, and then by the end of the game 3, you were at 14 beers.
Double Nurgle's holy number.
Yes.
Legitimate, there was a wall of beers on the side.
There was. I have photos of just
and there were some damaged bottles. There
was an excellent moment because again, social contract. I'm like, I'm gonna be drinking. I've already had a lot to drink. I'm like, Corey, I'm gonna go start me up. You want yeah, we did that. But then during the game, what had happened was in one of these old time Adeptus Mechanicus Imperial Sector buildings with not the ones that have the bigger squares but the ones that have the smaller squares for their floors. He had a unit of intercessors up there, and because of wobbly model syndrome, I could move my models on the edge and assault, and I managed to get an assault with some plague bearers. And so I had my plague bearers stringed on the top level, and they kind of went down the rest of the table, and I was just doing this to tie him up. And then he was taking a sip as I was doing putting them up there meticulously. I'm like, okay, it's all good. And he puts the beer down, and the ensuing quake knocks 2 plague bears. It was one of the 2 points of battle damage I had all weekend. And then I'm like, well, that's it, Corey. It's -2 sportsmanship now after that and the assassins. And nice. He's like, no, sir, this was regular beer putting down pressure. And it became a whole thing.
Oh, geez.
This is proper protocol.
Yeah, exactly.
No Direction says in the chat, 13, that's rookie numbers. Thursday can do much more than that. It was 14 at the end.
It was 14 at the end. No Direction has seen me at the role-playing game conventions, though.
So. He was just slightly under 5 beers a game.
Yes, you consuming more than beer.
Well, I could have gone the extra, but Nurgle's holy number. Once I hit 14, it was kind of
almost averaging 1 beer every half hour of gameplay.
Yeah. Yes. Because I'd usually go and get 2 at a time, and then drink them both within the hour.
It's not smart to only get 1.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
efficiency.
Professor Grant says the Vindicar kept failing 2. Clanky asks when you're coming out to Brandon. I'm sure we'll figure that out in a second. But I have more stats, people.
Oh my
Just
God.
wait. Over the course of the day, Thurston scored 2.14 points per beer. He had 2.3 points allowed per beer and 4.6 beers per game. Now, to compare, I'm a player who usually drinks 1 beer per game. I just I get my nice dark imperial stouts. I sip them for a while. If I had
chew a little bit too.
Yeah, if I had consumed beers, my usual grade of beers, and performed the way you did and gotten your exact scores, I would have been scoring 10 points per beer and allowing 2 points per beer and having 1 beer per game. So despite the fact that you were still scoring all the way down at 2.14 points per beer instead of the 10 that I would have scored, you still won the event. I went and got comparisons, though. I talked to 3 other players across the board and caught their points results and how many beers they consumed over the course of the game.
I didn't know this was coming.
Neither did I. I didn't know any of this was coming.
Player 1.
This is some intense math.
Player 1 was 911, 911, and 310. They are 2.75 points per beer, so about half a point per beer above you. However, they were at 3.86 points allowed per beer. So you're allowing like 1 full fewer point per beer than this person. And they had 2.6 beers per game. So about half your rate. Player 2 was 11 and 1, 3 and 10, 4 and 11. So they're closer to you at 2.57 points per beer, 3.14 points allowed, and 2.3 beers a game. And then player 3, I didn't get their... they are at 0.08 points per beer.
Legal drinking.
1 beer and 1 point per game. I didn't get their points against per beer because it was very late in the day.
That's fine.
4 beers per game. Still less than you. So what all of this lets me do, lets me...
Is there going to be a test on this?
Oh, no. Baseball has a fun stat called wins above replacement. The idea is, how well is the average person we can call up from the minors going to do? And then you compare your pro level players to that on your team. How much better are they than the average person from the minors? So I created a replacement player from all of these stats so that we can calculate your beers above replacement or bar stats.
Excellent.
We've been going through your beer assisted competition stats today, your BAC, but now we're going to do your bar stats. So the replacement player, the average player at the event was 3.1 beers per game, because y'all...
Go team.
Y'all go hard. They were 3.6 points allowed per beer, and had 2.96 beers per game. 3.10 points per beer, 3.6 points allowed per beer, and then 2.96 beers per game. So compared to the replacement player, compared to the average person at the event, you were a full point lower per beer than them at 2.96. You were a full, which is like incredible when you compare to like, I would have been scoring 10 per beer. You were at 2, like holy shit, the amount you drank and still scored.
Well, yeah, I got rookie numbers, man.
Yeah, the key point for me though is that you were denying a full point per beer more than the average player at the event.
Oh, that's just Nurgle.
Yeah,
that's just
Nurgle.
Nurgle.
Your strategy, your objective, just board control let you hit that great like -1 points allowed per beer compared to your replacement player, your beers above replacement. And then you were at a full beer and a half, 1.64 beers per game above the average player at the event.
Okay, you want to know the trick to my beer related success?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna talk to the audience
a whole bunch
here.
Of numbers out there.
I came up with my game plan 2 months ago on how this whole tournament was gonna go down.
He's been drinking ever since.
And I built my army, and everyone will attest because I've been shouting it from the rooftops. I wanted an army that I could win in the movement phase and drink for the rest of the game. And mission successful.
Lo and behold, here
absolutely.
I am, king of the castle.
The highest beers consumed that I have for other players was 12. So you beat them on beers, and then like just
you know.
go on.